Good day everyone, so today we are going to tackle about the aerobic respiration. So we are the group 2, so here's our member for our report. So first is Luis Andre Guadalupe, Sean Plaza, Robin Larino, and Pino Dumalaga, and Nick Lawrence Jr.
Good evening everyone, my name is Luis Andre Guadalupe. I am here to present our reporting in general biology about aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is a process in which cells obtain energy from food, usually glucose. Using oxygen, it is one of the main ways that organisms generate the energy they need to survive, grow, and function. For example, when a person eats food, it is broken down into glucose. As they breathe in oxygen, it enters the cells where aerobic respiration occurs. In this process, glucose and oxygen combine to produce energy, or ATP, along with carbon dioxide and water. For example, during exercise like running, the muscles use this energy to move, while the carbon dioxide is exhaled and water is removed as waste. This process helps the body stay active and function properly. That's all. Thank you.
So first, we're going to tackle about the functions of the process. Aerobic respiration is the process your cells use to create energy from the food you eat, and it requires oxygen. This is like a tiny power plant inside each of our cells that converts fuel or food into usable energy. Creating cellular energy. The main job of aerobic respiration is to produce adenosine triphosphate, which is ATP. The primary energy currency of the cells in your body. Your cell uses ATP to power everything they do, including first is the movement, contracting your muscles. Second, growth and repair, building new cells and tissues when you are injured. Third, transporting moving substances across the cell membranes. And lastly, communication is to sending nerve signals to your body. Without this constant energy supply from aerobic respirations, the cell couldn't perform these vital functions. Here's the simple breakdown. Imagine, your body is like a car. The food you eat, especially sugar like glucose, is the fuel. The oxygen you breathe is essential for burning the fuel efficiently. The process of aerobic respiration is like a car's engine converting the fuel into energy to make the car go. So your body is like a car, and without the fuel or sugar in your body, our body will not function. It's like a car that it wouldn't start if there is no fuel. Here's the first function of aerobic respiration. First is glycolysis. This is the first step in the cell's main compartment. A sugar molecule like glucose is to break down into two smaller molecules. A small amount of energy like ATP is released step by step. So here's the breakdown of the glycolysis. So first one is the glucose, and the bottom one is the 2-pyruvase. So what do you mean by pyruvase? So pyruvase is a crucial carbon molecule that sits the T junction in the metabolism, bringing major energies into pathways. So the pyruvate can move to any certain area that can release some energy to our body. Here's the second one, the link reaction. The smaller molecules of the first step are prepared to enter the cell's powerhouse, the mitochondria. So here's the breakdown of our link reaction. So the two pyruvates will go enter the mitochondria. So this is the part where the mitochondria pyruvase enters the mitochondria to give energy. Here's the part where the pyruvase enters the mitochondria. So the two pyruvates will enter the mitochondria to produce some energy that is from the aerobic respiration. So here's the third one, Krebs cycle, like the engines of the cycle. Inside the mitochondria, the fuel molecules go through a series of chemical reactions. These processes release more energy and produce carbon dioxide as a waste product which you can breathe out. So here's the breakdown of the Krebs cycle. First is the fuel molecules that can go through the mitochondria. So this is the process of fuel molecules are broken down through a series of reactions that releases energy. As a result of the carbon dioxide is produced as waste that we breathe out. So here's the last one, electron transport, the power or the generator. This is the final and most important step also happening in the mitochondria. Oxygen is used here to create large amount of ATP. This is where the majority of the energy is generated. Water is also produced as the byproduct. So here's the breakdown of the electron transport chain. So first is the oxygen. In the middle part is ATP, and the last part is the H2O. So these three can merge and go into the mitochondria to create us an energy, so that our body will always be active. So that's my part, so let's tackle to the next part.
Here's the characteristic of aerobic respiration. It needs oxygen to happen. Aerobic respiration needs oxygen down to work. Without oxygen, it won't happen. Number 2, it mostly occurs in the mitochondria of cells. Indicamine takes place in the mitochondria, which we call the powerhouse of the cell. Number 3, glucose is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water. Saying ang glucose is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water. Number 4, it releases a lot of energy or ATP more than in aerobic respiration. This guy produces a lot of energy in the form of ATP, much more compared sa anaerobic respiration. Number 5, it is slower but more efficient than in aerobic respiration. Slower siya than in aerobic respiration, but it's more efficient because it makes more energy. And that's all the characteristic of aerobic respiration.
So now, let's talk about the examples of aerobic respiration. 1. Human body or the muscle cells. Humans use aerobic respiration to produce energy for activities like walking, running, and breathing. So, in humans, aerobic respiration happens in our muscle cells. When we breathe normally, for example, when we walk or do light exercise, oxygen is supplied to the cell to break down glucose, giving us energy to keep moving. Number 2, plants. Plants use aerobic respiration, especially at night, to break down glucose and release energy. So, plants also perform aerobic respiration, especially at night when photosynthesis doesn't happen. They use the glucose stored from photosynthesis and oxygen from the air to produce energy for growth and repair. Number 3, animals. Animals such as birds and mammals rely on aerobic respiration to meet their high energy needs for movement. Animals like birds and mammals rely on aerobic respiration for energy. For example, birds need lots of energy to fly, so they use energy to efficiently break down glucose in their cell. Number 4, microorganisms. Some bacteria and fungi use aerobic respiration to grow and reproduce efficiently. Certain microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, and also use aerobic respiration. They take in oxygen from their environment to break down nutrients and release energy. So, to summarize, aerobic respiration is vital for many living organisms, including humans, plants, animals, and some microorganisms. This requires oxygen and provides a large amount of energy, which is why it's the most common form of respiration.
In conclusion, aerobic respiration is one of the most important processes that sustain life on Earth. It is the way living organisms, especially humans, get energy from the food that we eat. This process happens inside the mitochondria, which is often called the powerhouse of the cell. Aerobic respiration uses glucose and oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, and a large amount of ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate, the main source of energy for our cells. The process is divided into 3 major stages: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. In glycolysis, glucose is broken down into smaller molecules. Then, the Krebs cycle then continues to release energy by breaking down those molecules further and producing carbon dioxide. Finally, the electron transport chain uses oxygen to create more ATP efficiently. Overall, aerobic respiration is essential because it provides the energy that our cells need for movement, growth, and repair. and all the activities that keep living things alive and functioning properly. Without it, life as we know it would not be possible.